Meet me. Welcome back, boys, to another Squirrely Guide video. And today we're going to be talking about Kiss of Frost. I got a ton of requests for this. You guys know I don't care that much about PvE content, but for you guys, I decided to make this guide. So as always, my videos are broken down into topics. So topic number one will be what is Kiss of Frost and what are the rewards for it. Number two, we're going to talk about Phase 1. Number 3, we're going to talk about Phase 2. Number 4, we're going to talk about Phase 3. Number 5, we're going to talk about how to auto hell mode, because the other instructions will be manual for Epic Hell. And finally, we'll go over my hero stats and just summarize real quick. So let's get started. Alright, so topic number one, what is Kiss of Frost and what are the rewards? So Kiss of Frost, otherwise known as Advent Side Story or Side Story Advent, is basically new PvE content where you basically set 3 teams and each team fights a different phase of the boss, so there's 3 phases to the boss. And you're motivated to bring all heroes of the same element because if you do, they get a bonus. Like here I brought 2 dark, so I get a 20% speed bonus. If I brought 3, it'd be 40%, and each phase gives a different bonus. So first one's speed, second one's HP, last one's attack. So depending on your strategy, it matters a lot, or it doesn't really matter much at all. You can obviously swap out your heroes. One thing to note that a lot of people forget is it is still considered a side story, even though it's kind of weird. So make sure you use your side story pet to get extra currency. And I've even gotten catalysts from this, so this thing does in fact proc. The rewards are these white snake scales, and on Epic Hell, only on Epic Hell, you'll also get these white snake fangs. And you can also get modification gems. So just like Expedition, it's another way to get modification gems. On top of that, like most side stories, for level clears, you'll get these reputation rewards, and they're actually pretty good. You'll get a mola, things like that. And the exchange shop is great. You can get some great stuff. I already bought out the Covenant bookmarks, the molas. I have plenty of materials. And it's the first time we can actually get these light-dark connection things, right? So even if you clear it out, you don't get enough to do a single summon, but I guess over time as you keep running these, you will collect these, and eventually maybe you'll get an ML5 from this. I would say if you don't want to do it all over, like to buy out everything in the shop, probably skip these Gift of Tranquilities and the modification gems for sets that you never use, like maybe it's Injury, maybe it's Rage. Just from doing expeditions, I have like all these gems and I don't have any gear for it, so I never use them. I would always buy out the speed one and the immunity one, and possibly the counter lifesteal ones, depending on how much you use those sets. And these things take a different currency, but you can buy it out. You just have to buy them using this currency to get it to buy these more expensive ones that only drop from Epic Hell. So with that, let's get into the actual guide. Before we start, disclaimer, I don't like PvE, so I tried to make teams that required me not to change anyone's gear. So not all these teams are super optimal, but I'll discuss the overall strategy, and you guys can change your teams depending on what you have built. I just didn't want to re-gear everyone, and I don't build heroes specifically for PvE most of the time. So I basically just dropped in PvP units and prayed that it worked, and finally came out with a composition that was fairly consistent and made sense. And for the purposes of the next 3 topics, we're going to be doing them on Epic Hell difficulty, just so I can show that it works on the hardest one, and obviously it works on the lesser difficulties as well. So let's get started. Alright, so next topic, Phase 1. So we're going to start by giving you the Idiot's explanation, and then we'll go into the skill. So the Idiot's explanation is spam AoE damage, and that's all there is to it. You're going to see that my team doesn't even have any matching elements. But basically the name of the game here is you need all of these little ads to be dead to do any noticeable damage. So basically that's the name of the game here. Just do as much AoE damage as you can, so just bring 3 of your best AoE DPS units, and they don't really hit that hard, so it's basically just a DPS race to get this boss to 70% before you're dead. And again, all of my units are geared on PvP gear. You did not need any special gear to get this done. And my Vivian has, I think, 1 mola in her. So it's not a particularly hard phase. If you struggle with it, it's mostly just a gear check. So in terms of special abilities, Basically, the ads can blind you, which gets annoying, so Holiday of Fiend is good here for that, to cleanse it off if my RB gets countered. Vivian's also good because she brings an attack buff for your team and immunity to stop extra blinds from those counters. And other than that, the only goal here was to bring a lot of AoE. Now you're going to notice the boss also has an undispellable immunity and these attack and defense buffs. You can technically remove them in every phase, but the conditions are so strict that really most people just ignore them because getting rid of the condition is harder than just straight up killing the boss. So for the most part, people just completely ignore that aspect of the fight and you just do a DPS race. So if you don't have my heroes built, there's a ton of other YouTube videos out there. I'll try to put on the screen some recommendations for heroes. Like a lot of people use things like Green Bellona, Green Vildred, Havel. These are all heroes that I don't have built, so I can't personally use them. But basically the rule of thumb is any AoE hero works, and if you really can't get through this stage, it's almost certainly just nothing more than a gear issue. So let's move on to the next phase. Alright, next topic. So, phase 2, Idiot's explanation is, keep buffs up, kill her as quickly as possible. So there's some RNG here for me with my dumb team because my flurry gets resisted on the death break a lot, but that's basically the name of the game. It's just, most of these phases are just DPS races. So let's go over her abilities. Basically, if you have less than 2 buffs, you take a lot more damage. She has very low speed, but every time she gets attacked, she CR pushes herself, and that includes the attacks on her mob. So Flurry's actually not great here because of that, because she turn cycles so fast and gives her a million turns. She's also half resistant to DDJ, just something to note. You could still use it. She also has this move, Frost Pillar. It applies Frost Curse to you, where if you get hit, it pushes you back and you take damage proportional to max HP. It also injures you, and she also has Ice Pillar, and this is another reason you need buffs. If you have less than 2 buffs, right after she uses this, it will proc this thing right after. And as you can see, she says that she always attacks the front row first, so put your tankiest unit in the front. Other than that, it's just another standard DPS race. Landy is fantastic here. Landy's actually also fantastic in the first wave. Some people say don't use her because you can't get focus or fighting spirit in the first wave, but I disagree with that. Landy is one of the best AoE DPSs in the game. She just chews that first phase up. So you'll notice every time I hit her, she's getting a huge CR bump, right? So Flurry will give her a lot of turns, and even if I attack this thing, it's going to push her up. So, oh great, so the dual attacks are actually terrible here, because she's cycling through the defense break. But that's pretty much all there is to this fight. I like using DN just to make this phase faster, but another popular pick here is Rowana, because Rowana heals on dual attacks, and these two dual attack a lot. So particularly for an auto team on lesser difficulties, Rowana is a fantastic, fantastic choice. And we'll put on the screen some other heroes a lot of people use to get through this floor. Otherwise, let's move on to the next phase. Next topic, final phase. So this one's actually the easiest one for me. I have a horribly geared Flan and a Rose here. The only reason Rose is here is because my Sigrid's so slow that I can't push her up far enough. But various people have different strategies for doing this. A lot of people like using Fighter Maya. I like just dealing with this phase as quickly as possible, so I went the one-shot route, but there are other options. But basically, this is a hardcore DPS race, and I think this is the phase that most people struggle with because they end up not having enough DPS to kill her in time because you're bringing a lot of DPS right in her squishy, and she actually hits really hard. Key things to note here is never AoE, because if she suffers an AoE attack, she takes next to no damage and activates Snowstorm, which will basically one-shot any squishies. Another thing to note is that, where is that ability? If she gets attacked by someone with a debuff, there we go. When attacked by a debuff target, she dispels 2 debuffs from the caster. So that's something to note because I kept getting confused why she was cleansing herself. That's another big part of it. Now, if you go for a one-shot strategy, there is a lot of RNG here because I definitely lose if she resists this. So let's just pray that she lands her defense break. So 15% of the time I'll fail here, but it is what it is. It's still much faster. And we do land everything. So this is just literally my Wyvern one-shot Sigrid. There's nothing different about her build. I didn't change anything. And watch, she has her barrier up, and we're just gonna one-shot this thing, no problem. So, proc DS1, and I think this is the easiest, cleanest way to do it, even with the 15% possibility of losing. And that's my last Epic Hell run. Other DPS options are things like Operator Sigrid or Watcher Shuri. Like some people use Oxalot's Operator Sigrid, Watcher Shuri. My Watcher Shuri sucks and my Operator Sigrid doesn't do enough damage. Other team comps, or if you have Maid, you could use something like Maid, Fighter Maya, and another DPS like T-Surin or something like that because they cleanse themselves. But basically, you're going to want a lot of cleansing if you don't go a one-shot route. So those are your two options. Just blow it up in one hit like me, or have a lot of cleanse and survivability. And Fighter Maya is great because she's very tanky, self-cleanses, and the boss is pretty close to 30% already, and her S3 will do a lot of damage to this boss. Let's move on to the next topic. Alright, so next topic, autoing Hell mode, because, Epic Hell you can only run 5 times, so just come up with any team that you can run and manual it 5 times, it's not a big deal. But Hell mode, you're probably going to have to run it close to 60 times to clear out the shop, so you don't really want to manual that, right? So luckily, in most cases, you can probably just auto with your Epic Hell team, and that's what I did. I replace DN with Rowana sometimes. I found that that's a little bit more consistent, even though it's slower, because Rowana heals on the counter. So that might be one adjustment you want to make. And surprisingly, even my one-shot team, they make stupid decisions and they won't soul burn, but it actually works. So in the background, I'll play this in super fast motion just to prove that this team can auto Hell. But typically, if you have an Epic Hell team, because it's so much harder than Hell mode difficulty, you should be able to auto it. My tips are put Rowana in Team 2, and for Team 3, if you have to switch over there, if you have some kind of weird one-shot team that requires soul burns, then do that. Otherwise, you're going to have to build a very specific team to beat it with like maybe Flurry, Sid, and some grass unit. You're going to have to come up with a team with some sustain to deal with that phase 3. But my one-shot team ended up working. So best of luck with that, but it shouldn't be that hard. Let's move on. Alright, so just to wrap this video up, because you guys will be curious about the hero stats of the heroes I used, again, they're going to be the same as my account overview recently. I did not re-gear heroes for this. That was the point. I didn't want to move around gear, but just so you have a reference, this is my Holiday Yafine. What else did I use? This is my Falconer Clury. This is my Landy. This is my Vivian. You could see, trash bag stats with no molas. And it works completely fine. Rowana, very easy hero to gear. What else did we use here? Arbiter Vildred, just my standard PvP build. And I think that was every hero that we used. Oh, we have to show you Rose and Flan. This is my garbage Rose. Again, just garbage gear. And my Flan, I think, is level 50 down here. I just put random gear on her. So, yeah, she's not even. She's level 53 starred. And last but not least, I forgot to show you my Sigrid. My Sigrid is pretty monstrous, so you guys might struggle if you don't have a rage set. So you guys might have to go different comp, but this is literally just my Wyvern one-shot Sigrid. No changes required. I still use DDJ, even with her kind of DDJ-resistant mechanic. So anyways, I hope this guide helped you guys out. Basically, just to recap, Phase 1, AoE, AoE, AoE. Phase 2, DPS race, use Rowana to cheat. And Phase 3, one-shot, or, it's just a gear check. Because honestly, if you don't one-shot it, it is pretty freaking hard. So anyways, I hope this helped you out. Thanks for watching. Best of luck on grinding the Advent side story. Until next time, peace out, boys.